She keep on trying to get up out of here. She bypassed. She bypassed. She bypassed. Hello, Jason.
Yep. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, April 23rd Community Development Human Services Committee meeting. I am Jason Winston, chair of the committee. I am joined to my far right by Councilmember Andrea Boone, to my immediate right, Councilmember Jason Dozier, to my immediate left, we have Councilmember Mary Norwood, and we are also joined by Council President Doug Shipman. This does constitute a quorum, so I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. Second. We have a second by Councilmember Dozier. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. I'll now make a motion to adopt the, to approve the minutes. Sorry.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Dozier. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is public comment. We have several people here today to speak. As a reminder, you will have 3 minutes. I'll do a gentle reminder when you have 30 seconds left. And our first speaker is Latricia Cheney.
All right, great afternoon to each of you in here. My name is Latricia Cheney, and I am a member of Housing Justice League and a displaced family from Forest Cove Townhomes located in Thomasville Heights community in southeast of Atlanta. In 2013, my family and I transitioned from homelessness to affordable low-income housing at Forest Cove. In 2019, my family was displaced from unlivable, unsafe conditions and mismanagement of millennial housing. And now Atlanta has lost hundreds of units, of affordable units for extremely low-income households. Today, I am here with Forest Cove residents, Atlanta Housing Justice League, and Atlanta residents in support of Forest Cove residents who are still struggling to secure safe and comfortable homes. Recently, our Mayor Andre Dickens was on Instagram talking about the demolition of Forest Cove. In his video, he said that the city would bring all of the residents back to the new development that is planned for Thomasville Heights neighborhood. Residents have had horrible time. Residents from Forest Cove have had a horrible time finding housing that meets their needs. Many are being forced into low opportunity areas that are from jobs that are far from jobs and quality schools, and some of the units are in worse conditions as far as code. Quality, affordable housing is hard to find in Atlanta, and we need the Thomasville Heights development to help fill that gap. Residents are here today. The Forest Cove residents are here today to share a bit about what they have been going through in the past several months of being displaced and relocated from Forest Cove. So city councils, I ask and hope of that we can count on you to make sure that the city plan for Thomasville Heights include Forest Cove's residents.
All right, thank you. Our next speaker is Henry Jordan. Just a reminder, Ms. Jordan, you have 3 minutes.
Give it down to the Spirit of God, everyone that's here. Judge me, O God, and plead my cause against an ungodly nation. O deliver me from the deceitful and unjust man. Psalms 43, chapter 1st verse. Using the refrain, hope thou in God, as a marker. The poem yields 3 stanzas. First, the psalmist expresses his deep longing for God. Second, his sad lament, dejection before God. Finally, he shows confidence in God. James Griffin, others, Jesus hates sin. He that committed sin is of the devil, for the devil sinned from the beginning. For this purpose, the Son of God was manifested that he might destroy the works of the devil. 1 John 3, chapter 8, verse. To do the devil deeds is to declare allegiance to him, not to Christ. Christ came to destroy the devil deeds. Do you desire the devil deeds to be destroyed in you? I do. In me and you, in the name of Jesus. And let the beauty of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish thou the work of our hands upon us. Yea, the work of our hands establish thou it. Psalm 90, chapter 17, verse. Rather, the believer must recall that deliverance still has to be the will of God. And that even if harm should come, he can still be secure. The gift was done through Jesus' power, not mine. And how? At his command, not yours. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. John 9, chapter 5, verse. When he is no longer in the world, the believers become the light of the world. When you belittle the light Jesus gave me, you reject the work he desires to do in me. We should desire the work of Jesus to be done in us for his glory. Jesus gave the gift to me, and the homeless call on Jesus for your protection. Christ got a plan for us that will bless us. More than our plan will bless us. We can't bless ourselves like Christ can. I know that for a fact, and you can see it for a fact. You living on Christ's time. He gave you. You didn't give it to yourself. It's what you owe Jesus. We ought to live right for Jesus, to fight sin. This is what we owe God. He made us for this purpose, and that's why you in that office. And we thank God for a gift to fight against sin in us and around us and in others.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tanika Thomas.
How y'all doing?
Good.
I'd like just to talk about my experience and my experience with the relocation. They relocated me into a Lithonia area away from all my families and that was in Four Seasons. I don't know anyone out there. I don't have transportation. So when I, do go out, confused really because I don't know nowhere around in the area. The place they moved me to have bugs. I mean, I'm talking about like flying bugs coming out my sink, and it's like awful, okay? Now, the Section 8 program they put me on, okay. Now, oh my God. Okay, I'm not ready. Okay, the Section 8 program they put me on. Okay, my Loomis lady is not helping us, you know. And now I've been forced to move into a house. I had never stayed in a house before. I never handled this kind of, you know, thing, but I'm gonna try and do it. But I know I'm not strong enough. But if I'm just asking if you guys relocate us back into that area, you know, I would like to come back to the Four Seasons area, and also my child, you know, if anything happened to me in the future, allow him to be able, because he dealt with a lot of crap out there in Four Seasons. Sorry, I wasn't prepared, but that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. We appreciate your comment. Next, we have Madrika Gray.
I'm already right here.
Okay.
How you doing, Councilman?
Good. Thank you.
As you can see, like the pain, the trauma, like being relocated, like lives just snatched and changed at the blink of an eye, being placed in places more deplorable than the places that we came from, like being held accountable for stuff that was out of our control when the city as well as millennia at this point shouldn't be blaming fingers at no one. Like the lives are being destroyed mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. We've been given these vouchers that if you don't have transportation or funds to even apply, you're gonna lose your voucher. So I'm just asking that if people want to return back to that area once that's done, I'm asking us for that in writing. Like myself, like the trauma and the pain, I don't wanna go back. I don't wanna relive that hurt. I don't wanna relive any of that. Like if you guys can have like even the thought of wanting $600,000 for what is it, Section 24343, then consider bringing us back. Like affordable rent for who? We want to be able to afford to be able to live in the city of Atlanta. I've been in Atlanta all my life, so that's all I know. I was born at Grady. I was raised in Atlanta. I was displaced from East Lake, where I was born, to move to Edgewood, where we was gentrified first, only to come to Forest Cove and develop a family like no other. Like no other, like help, like you guys gave money to organizations that did whatever they wanted to do with it, and families are suffering. Our kids was forced out of the city to go be placed in the DeKalb County school system, where half of them being kept back. We get stereotyped, we get judged, we get the worstest, we get treated like not even animals. Like, so we asking that if people want to return, let them return, but it's bigger than Forest Cove. We need affordable housing. We need affordable housing. Affordable for who? The people that work there don't even make 3 times the rent. Like, it's traumatizing. It's a lot. Like, I want to be able to put all this behind me, get me a degree, be able to afford property so that I could be able to help people. But if you guys are in a position to do so already, we asking from the bottom of my heart to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Our next speaker is Shirley Pounds.
Hello, my name is Shirley Pounds. I resided in Forest Cove for about 20 years, and I'm only up here really trying to see if we could be allotted the opportunity to return back to the Thomasville community, because the apartments that we lived in, which was called Forest Cove, they're not coming back. Y'all see them on the news all the time. They're steady getting burnt up, and we want to be able to not only be allowed to come back to Thomasville Heights, we just want to come back to the city of Atlanta, which under affordable housing. We was living in Forest Cove, and those were considered townhomes. They have relocated us, thank God for that, but a lot of us, we didn't upgrade, we really downgraded, and we was forced to, like we have older kids who went off to college, and they should still be on our lease, but our bedroom size is not the same, so that we've been forced to force our 18, 19-year-olds out the house. I do not like that, and I was just wondering if we could, like I said, have the same opportunity to come back to the city, because they did give us Section 8 vouchers, but they gave us a time limit with the Section 8 vouchers. And not only that, you have to qualify to meet certain criteria that a lot of women did not have when they lived in Forest Cove, such as 600 credit scores, and we don't make 3 times the rent. Now, we do understand no one is not trying to work. We don't have a problem working. They moved us to no bus line, you know what I'm saying? So it's like we're trying to get on our feet from some apartments that was supposed to have been demolished, and they were still receiving funds for us, and we don't get those funds. So even though we're relocated, we still have to pay our utilities and everything on our own that we was receiving assistance for in those apartments. And so, like I said, I was born and raised at Grady. I was in group homes here. I done lived in shelters here, so I already know about the struggle, and I'm not trying to go through it again with my kids. And like I said, I want us to be able to come back to the city under affordable housing, because we don't make 3 times the rent, and where they moved us to is not beneficial for us. So that's what I wanted to say. But we are thankful for the help that we have received. Upon moving us out, they discovered asbestos. To add to all the mold and mildew that we had to endure over there, they found the asbestos, and we have not been compensated no type of way. I feel like we're being punished for some apartments that they neglected. So we've been thrown out of our comfort zone and, into the outskirts of Atlanta. I don't want to be into the outskirts. I want to be in the city of Atlanta, where I put my time in. I got my GED, and I graduated right here from City Hall. So I feel as if I shouldn't be living in Stockbridge and Ellenwood. I need to be right here in the city where I'm allotted jobs and childcare. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Waukesha Howe.
I'm just gonna start by saying I'm mad as hell. Listening to them stories, I'm mad as hell because I was a former resident as well. But let me just start by saying this. The city of Atlanta is rotten to the core, and I stand with these families of Forest Cove because I am a former resident myself. The mayor, the city council knew that this was not going to work. They never had a plan from city council to the school. They never had a plan for these families. If you don't control the land, you can't give nobody no vouchers. Y'all knew they weren't gonna find nowhere to go. Y'all knew it, and Jason, we told you. We told you this. You guys knew it wasn't gonna work and nobody would accept those vouchers, leaving these families in an unstable bind. Everyone was aware of the living condition from the city, past mayors, and the world knew what was going on in those apartments from way back when. As of today, what is the plan? Where's the plan for these families? I'm gonna stay here and wait because I want to see it, Jason. Where's the plan for these families? What will the new development look like? Because from our community, tell them what you heard from us. They don't want them poor people to come back. Tell the truth and shame the devil. They don't want them back at all. We got new development all around this town. Why can't they get a new apartment or a new townhome? Let's talk about the demolition. The mayor bragged, and I hope he'll come see me, sir. He bragged about going and tear that down when they had asbestos. You cannot clean asbestos overnight.
Me with a felony for allegedly extorting him via Facebook for money. I deny these allegations. Can you now see why the citizens of Atlanta are willing to take matters into their own hands, thus increasing the crime rate? Because when you report an injustice, you don't get any justice. I was beaten 6 years ago, left in a coma on life support, but I end up getting charged in 2018. Although I had my assailants on camera, they were taunting me. They called me fags, they called me sissies, they called me homos. I was the non-aggressor on the curb. But I got charged with a misdemeanor by Keith Gamage called a fray. That was an injustice. Another injustice was Keith Gamage, you all, took that misdemeanor and took it to Fonnie Willis' office, and then I had a pending felony. Can anyone tell me how this makes sense? Does this make sense to anyone? And again, I haven't done anything to no one, but here I am facing with felony charges. Next injustice, I lose my job at Delta Airlines. Why? Because I reported that I had a pending misdemeanor, a fray. No one told me that I had a pending felony. I know you all out there are asking, did you have an attorney? I did. His name was Gerald Griggs. I paid $5,000. I come from the west side of Chicago, from gang-ridden neighborhoods, drug houses next door. I had to stay steadfast and manifested to get 2 bachelor degrees, to get 2 master degrees, to come to Atlanta, the city that's allegedly too busy to hate, to run straight into hate and catch petty charges. And my leaders, Matt Westmoreland, turns blind eye to my situation, won't even meet with me, won't even provide any type of empathy or sympathy to my situation. As a result, I had to take my son out of college, who's now getting in trouble as a result. Is there anything you all are gonna do? How reporting a crime, I end up catching charges, and to this day, they're trying to press extortion charges against me. Help me make this make sense, please.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Kenya Smith.
Hey, my name is Kenya Smith. I'm having a problem with the locate. I had moved into a bad neighborhood. My daughter had been stabbed in her leg. And I moved to a bad neighborhood, and my daughter, I moved to 445 Cleveland Avenue. My daughter being stabbed in her leg, defense involved. I'm feeling unsafe. It just getting out of hand because I'm feeling unsafe. And I have 3 kids. And the lady didn't get locked up, so I don't know what to do. It just, I don't know. So I'm asking y'all, can y'all please let me go back to Forest Cove, Thomasville, whatever? Cause it really getting out of hand. It's dangerous over there. It's not safe for me and my kids, period. So I'm asking y'all, please let me go back. I had to take my daughter to the hospital yesterday. She had to get 3 stitches in her leg. A 32-year-old lady stabbed my daughter in her leg. Now I'm dealing with defects. So the complex is really getting out of hand because they move me too fast. Like, I just can't deal with it. The crime scene came to my house, took picture of my daughter's leg and everything. So now my daughter at home in bad condition.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Next, we have Ms. Peaches. You have 3 minutes.
I would just like to say, I would like to tell the mayor thank you for helping us out. But since we left Four Seasons, it been so hard. I didn't know it was gonna be this hard for my residents. Because if I did, I would have fought it so hard for them. So we ask y'all to please step back in and help us out again. Because where I'm at, I'm catching hell. I had a gun pull out on me. It just, we can't take it. We need your help, Mr. Winston. So can you please tell the mayor I would like to talk to him so he can help us out again, please. Oh, tell Mr. Dickinson I appreciate the reward I received.
Thank you, Ms. Peaches. Next we have, I think is Irene Gris. Okay.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Erie, and I was a resident of Forest Cove. And I have 3 kids that was raised out there. I had a problem with my kids' health. I have 2 boys that is on steroid medication because they asthma, because of inhaling mold. And when they broke ground over there, like in 2005 and all that stuff was coming through the ground, like we had to deal with that in Forest Cove. Didn't nobody come. I stood up and called code enforcement, everybody to help with Hugh Spalding, everybody asking for help for us over there because of the living deplorable. It's just out of hand. Like, when we come to y'all for help, what type of help do we get? I'm tired of the photo ops. We need help. Like, I have moved. I'm in my unit with my voucher. I have not had hot water in 3 weeks. How can me and my kids live like this? When we left Forest Cove, we was put back in a mold box, dealing with PTSD in Stockbridge. I lost my job because we had no bus line to bring me back to Atlanta where my kids go to school and where I was working. No help. All this money that what they said they gave to us, we did not get it. I didn't get no bills paid. I didn't get no help with transportation, no voucher, clothes, nothing. I was told to leave all my furniture, which, Ms. Peaches, then I leave my whole apartment behind because it was molded. Everything from the steps to the wall, everything. My hot water heater leaking, everything, walls, floors, falling in, rats, everything. I reached out for help and couldn't get nobody to come help me out there. Now I'm at where I'm at in the city of Atlanta, and I don't have hot water. My children should not be able to say that we left Forest Cove to move somewhere else and now we where we supposed to be with no hot water. Right now, I am out of work. I work for Fulton County Schools because someone don't touch somebody's child, now all 8 of us out of work. How am I gonna pay my bills and my light bills? I was told that they have a voucher for us, for utility. We haven't seen a utility check since when? Like, these people struggling with lights, gas off. We shouldn't be like this. If y'all can support the immigrants that come into the United States and Atlanta, what about us? I work hard in the city of Atlanta. I'm so dedicated, I didn't even change my ID. So when it's time to vote, I'm able to put y'all back in office. That's what I told Andre Dickinson. Get us back. I want to be back in the Thomasville community because this is where I was raised at. I was born at Grady Hospital. My family is here. We got businesses. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. We got businesses in Atlanta. Can we get some help?
Thank you. Next we have Joanne Mathis. Okay. And excuse me on the next one. It looks like V. Wembley or Nimby.
Valerie Wemby.
Okay. Okay.
I'm Valerie Wemby, and I'm a Forest Cove resident. And just like how Doug, Jason, and Andre and Matt do us, like how y'all would want to be done. Nobody can't tell me about Forest Cove. I can write a book on it. Y'all been saying what y'all was gonna do, this, that, and the third. We still been waiting on it and having nothing been resolved. It's time for y'all to do something.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Tim Ball.
Hey guys, a little embarrassed to talk about pickleball today, but want to follow up on the pilot program this year. We're 8 months into Commissioner Cutler's pilot program, and so far we have 6 dedicated pickleball courts. Virtually no courts have been lined, and I think there's nothing under construction right now. So what I'd ask you guys to do is just ask for an interim report on the pilot program, just to see where we stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Monica Johnson. We have Monica Johnson. Okay.
Hello, I'm Monica. I'm with Housing Justice League. And just as a member of the Atlanta community, we've seen over and over that the backbone of the community is being left behind over and over and over again. I think it's criminal that the money that was set aside or that was given to Millennia was allowed to continue on for so long. I think it's criminal that these people, these like upstanding, like, you know, community pillars are having to go back and be forced to Lithonia, to Stockbridge, to Ellenwood. There's no transit. There's no ability to get a good job, upheaval. And the city of Atlanta is talking about how much affordable housing we're building. I think there's a responsibility and a duty to make sure that these residents have a just relocation process, because that's what everybody said was gonna happen. It is also a responsibility to make sure that while we continue to get funding and grants and all these public-private partnerships for the new developments, they need to include housing that these folks can get into. Not just affordable, saying 85% AMI, so it's still $1,200 to $1,500. We need deeply affordable housing for everyone, but especially these people that have been messed over, and you know they could not leave because if they left their Section 8 voucher, they would lose it. So they were forced to live in an area that was detrimental to their health, their mental and stability, and now they've been pushed out, and there's hardly any opportunity for them to get back in. And even if it was immediate, there's so much that they have lost and have dealt with. So over and over, we have to come here. We were at the zoning review board because there's a development going forward that has ignored community needs. And one thing that probably everyone could agree with in Atlanta is that the rent is incredibly high and the housing is subpar. So all of us, you know, who might be able to move out when something like that goes on, we need the same protections. There need to be protections in the city to make sure that nobody is able to profit off of people's misery, off of people's health, death, stabbings, asthma, all sorts of disability that people are facing. And so I think it's a 5-alarm fire, something you guys need to be acting on very quickly, because the people of Forest Cove and all sorts of oppressed working class people in the city are being left behind.
Thank you. And our last speaker for today is Matthew Nursery.
Thank you, Matthew Nursery, organizer with the Housing Justice League. And I'm just here to echo what everyone here has already been saying. The residents of Forest Cove who have been displaced, as has been said, far from where they lived. And I don't know about you, but if, I was relying on public transportation and I was already living in a precarious situation in terrible conditions, and I, was assured this is a failure at like every level of agency. So if I was told by the city, that I needed to move out to the middle of nowhere, and I'm, unable to take the bus on a consistent, shortened time to be able to make it to my job, and put myself in an even worse situation. And I'm also being sent somewhere that is just as bad as where I was before in times. They're still living in conditions with pests. They're still living in conditions with mold. And the mayor is out there on social media and on the news saying that, the situation is under control, it's resolved, people are going to be coming back, and everything's hunky-dory. That is obviously not the case. And so, like I said, this has been a failure at every level in every agency that's supposed to help. It's not helping. They can't get in touch with their Loomis workers. They can't, the situation with HUD and Millennia, obviously, it's just a complete disaster. As Monica said, a 5-alarm fire, and you all need to do your job. That's what we're here asking for. And, people should not have to deal with what these folks are dealing with. People shouldn't have to live in these kinds of conditions, and especially not when the city says they're there to help, because then they think they're getting help and they don't. And, that's just not right. It's not right at all. So here we are just saying, tell the mayor to do his job, and I guess for the rest of you, please assist as well and do what you were voted in to do. So thank you.
All right, everyone. Just want to thank everybody for public comment today, and just want to acknowledge to the Forest Cove folks today that are here. That I would like to meet with you all. We have a conference room that's saved with that is reserved to meet with you after the CDHS committee, so that we can speak further about some of the issues that you have brought up today. I know that this has been a goal of ours is always to make sure that those that left Forest Cove have an opportunity to go back to Thomasville Heights. That is still a high priority to be able to do that. That's why a recent request RFQ just went out. So that we start looking at development, that we can prioritize that for former Forest Cove residents, and so we're going to continue to do that. In fact, even today, I'll have walk-in legislation that speaks towards the importance of doing everything we can legally to bring back Forest Cove residents that want to come back to Thomasville Heights, that they can do that. So we'll do that. I'm going to go to Councilman Boone, and then the colleagues, if you'll oblige me, I'd like to allow Josh Humphrey, Senior Advisor to the Mayor, to speak to this as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to offer my assistance with the situation. I probably could assist you and help you with this. And to the young lady that does not have water, if I could see you out there. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And colleagues, if you don't mind, I'd like to welcome Josh Humphreys to the podium to be able to speak to some of the efforts that we're undertaking right now in Thomasville Heights for our former Forest Cove residents.
Don't leave us out.
Hi, everyone. Josh Humphreys, Senior Advisor to the Mayor. Thanks for letting me speak for a minute. I just want to say to Forest Cove residents that are here, Council, I believe we're aligned at the end of the day. And I think that really starts from the day that Mayor and Councilman Winston came out 2.5 years ago now to Forest Cove. Yeah.
I could have stayed in 4 seasons.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And no one should have to live in the conditions that are at Forest Cove, anywhere in the city, anywhere, honestly. And in the state of Georgia, in the country, in the world, no one should have to live like that. And so that's why, partnering with City Council, we allocated funding and worked with Millennia and HUD, who were not planning to work on a relocation at that point because the conditions were so bad. And it was unacceptable to us, and I think unacceptable to many of you as well. And worked over the course of a few months to relocate residents and do the best we could in the tightest housing market in the city in a generation. And it was tough, and it took a long time. And we had to work really hard to create housing and create, find housing that was better than the conditions at Forest Cove. We knew that was not a permanent solution, though. And later, about a year after all of that, HUD stepped in and chose to cancel the contract. And so one of the details I think that's important to know is that HUD stepped in. They chose to cancel the contract that they had with Millennia for Forest Cove property. And when that happened, that transitioned a lot of the relocation and transitioned to the tenant protection vouchers that some of the residents talked about today. And so Loomis, which was a group that was referred to, was the group that was brought in by HUD to manage that transition.
Y'all don't mind, well, please allow Mr. Humphries to continue. Thank you.
And so when HUD came, or when Loomis came in, they began that transition for it. And creating tenant protection vouchers so that wherever the residents go, they'd have access to housing subsidy. But the reality is that, there's not enough available quality housing in the city right now, which is why the mayor, when he took office, launched an initiative to create 20,000 affordable housing units, why we launched our Safe and Secure Housing Initiative to create more housing here in Atlanta, close to transit, close to grocery stores, close to key amenities, because we know that is a pressing need, not only for Forest Cove residents, but for residents across the city. And so that is a fundamental part of what we're doing. Since taking office in 2022, the mayor has brought and delivered and or gotten under construction over 9,000 units of affordable housing. And the vast majority of those are over 70%, below 60% AMI. So a lot of lower income housing units are coming on, but reality, we have to move faster. We have to go faster, and we want to partner with you in order to be able to go faster. And we, because of Forest Cove is not owned by the city, it was not subsidized by the city, it was subsidized directly by HUD. We don't control what happens at Forest Cove and the long-term future of it. But we do own or have public ownership on about 80 acres of land in the Thomasville Heights area. And so partnering with residents in the neighborhood, residents of Forest Cove, and Councilman Winston, we adopted a neighborhood plan last year on how to use that, and we're in the final stages right now on a rezoning for that property. Councilman Winston mentioned the Thomasville Heights phase 1 work that we're doing. So right now, one of the public partners called Atlanta Urban Development has requested for a partner to help them build new housing in Thomasville Heights. The first phase will be about 100 units and we think somewhere around 100 units, and it'll be family-sized units. So we're focusing on townhouses, quality townhouses that look at 2, 3, and 4 bedroom options. Because one of the biggest challenges we faced during the relocation was we did not have enough available rental 3 and 4 bedroom options. So the first phase.
Units right up the street, sir.
And Millennia said the same thing.
So the first phase is going to focus on that. And we know it's going to take time. Building new housing takes time. It takes longer than any of us want, and we are doing everything we can to short circuit that.
People are dying.
Please keep order, or we can take this conversation offline.
And so we're working to build housing as quickly as we possibly can, starting with phase 1. And despite the fact that we don't have control over what happens at the Forest Cove property, that the mayor has made it clear since day one that we will do everything within our legal power to create a pathway back to Thomasville Heights for any resident of Forest Cove that wants to come back there, and not just a pathway back, but a pathway back to quality housing in that neighborhood.
All right. Well, I appreciate you giving that update, impromptu, Mr. Humphries. Yes, Councilman Boone.
Hello, how are you? Those that were moved off of the bus line, explain that to me.
So when we worked on the relocation, the highest priority, we're looking at folks that were transit dependent, had medical dependencies, school-aged children. So the relocation team worked on all of those different factors of like if you need transportation access to your job or your kid's school or otherwise, we're prioritizing making sure you have access to that. The reality is that from a housing standpoint, there wasn't enough of a housing available inside the city, and so there were some areas in Stockbridge and other places like that were mentioned today that had more limited transit access. And so we did everything we possibly could to find housing that was a quality and up to standard, but also had access to those things. So if I know the situation that was mentioned earlier, I don't know the specific details on there. I'm happy to work with them. And at the end of the day, like wherever they're at right now, there's a moment with Loomis that we could help find better housing with better transit access if they don't have that right now and need it.
So I may have missed this. I stepped out to assist the young lady with water. How many residents were relocated?
193 families.
193?
193 families, approximately 800 total people.
Okay. How many were relocated to locations without adequate transportation?
I could find that out for you. I don't know offhand.
That is a real issue for me. That's a real issue, which means I can't get to the grocery store, I can't get to the doctor. No, wait a minute, let me deal with this, okay? I definitely would like to be in on these conversations. And if you would please look at Council District 10, Council District 11, we do have units available. I would not want history to reflect that we moved citizens to areas without transportation.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, and I said it maybe while you were out of the room, this was a highest priority of ours when we were doing the relocation process on it. We were also, in the summer of 2022, at the lowest housing availability rate in a generation, and so it was the toughest time in the city, probably that this ever could have occurred from a housing availability standpoint. But we did everything. I mean, we understand the importance of transportation access on all this work, and it was a core priority.
Your transportation is your lifeline.
Yeah.
So how many in the audience today do not live in a place with transportation? 2. Okay. We'll get that sign-in sheet, and I'm going to make myself available after this meeting. That is a real issue for me.
How long, Council? So I be trying to tell him I need to get kind of close to Grady with the transportation.
All right, well, yes, so we have a conference room reserved for a meeting for Forest Cove residents who have come here today. So as soon as this meeting is over, we'll meet with you. I have somebody from my team that'll meet you and show you, but we'll meet. I think Mr. Humphries may join us as well. And so we'll further this conversation and see if we can do everything we can to help those, especially those in attendance today. So we appreciate everyone that signed up for public comment today. We're going to move on with our regular agenda. But colleagues, before we take, we have a few presentations. I'd like to take one communication first. There's no objection. Yeah, this is Mr. Evans, do you mind sounding item number 2?
I will. Briefly, before number 2, I just want to confirm, is Miss Cecilia Houston Torrance here today?
Okay, she's here.
Super. Well, that's communication number 1. 24C 5053, a communication from Charis Johnson, President, League of Women Voters of Atlanta, Fulton County, appointing Ms. Cecilia Houston Torrance to serve as a member of the commission to determine an appropriate manner in which to honor Mayor Shirley Clark Franklin.
Thank you, Ms. Houston Torrance.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and why you are interested in this position?
My pleasure. First of all, I want to thank y'all for the opportunity to serve on this commission for Mayor Franklin. And it's very appropriate that she gets this honor. She worked, she gave a lot to the city. She's earned this recognition by all of her contributions. I recently served as chair of the Atlanta Citizen Review Board, and I did 3 years as chair of that board. I currently serve on the board of the Piedmont Park Conservancy, appointed by President Shipman. I also serve on the Trust for Public Land, the Stewart Foundation, and the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. So I'm a community servant. I love being a part of this because Shirley Franklin is not only a mentor, but a friend. She's one of our members of our group in Southwest Atlanta, known as the Nature Girl. She walks with us there. So I know her personally, and I'm honored to be a part of this commission that will be figuring out some kind of way to honor her.
All right. We got a motion to approve, and it's been properly second. Motion by Councilmember Westmoreland and second by Councilmember Dozier.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. It's 4 yeas and 0 nays.
Congratulations, and
Thank you
for
very
your
much.
willingness to serve.
Appreciate it.
That'll take us to number 2, 24C 5054, communication from Councilmember Andrea L. Boone appointing Ms. Susan Ross to serve as a member of the commission to determine an appropriate manner in which to honor Mayor Shirley Clark Franklin.
Welcome, Ms. Ross. Always good to see you. Know a lot of us know a lot about you, but for the viewing public, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and your interest in this role?
Well, I'm honored to be back here at City Hall, a place where I literally grew up. I worked for the city for 37 years, beginning in, beginning as an intern with Mayor Maynard Jackson, and worked full-time beginning with Andrew Young's administration, and in fact was hired by Shirley Franklin. I have served in the Office of Contract Compliance. I developed and managed the small business program for the Watershed Management Department. I have also served in community affairs and cultural affairs. So I've been around the city and worked in various places, and had a unique perspective to view the work of former Mayor Shirley Clark Franklin. And I am honored to have been appointed a member of this committee to determine an appropriate way to represent her. I am currently retired. I am also a photographer and cultural historian. Many people know me as Photo Griot. I am a member of the Nature Girls as well. We walk in the city's Cascade Springs Nature Preserve every weekday morning, and we invite you all to join us whenever you have an opportunity. I would like to thank Councilmember Boone, who is my council member, for appointing me to this commission, and look forward to working with other citizens to develop an appropriate way to honor Mayor Shirley Clark Franklin.
All right. Sounds like it might have been a motion by Councilmember Boone. Second by Councilmember Westmoreland. We appreciate you as always. Mr. Evans, do you mind opening the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays.
Congratulations, and thank you for your willingness to continue to serve the city of Atlanta. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, colleagues. That takes us back to presentations. We have 2 today. Our first is from the Department of City Planning's their quarterly update. At this time, we'll welcome Commissioner Prince to the podium.
Good afternoon. I've got a tough act to follow. I'll try to be brief. So as we usually do, I'm going to start off with the Office of Buildings and our building permitting. You can see from the slide that I have up right now that permits are really starting to level off, as well as the construction valuation of those buildings. We're busy though. We have a lot of permits coming in the door. You can see here the commercial and light commercial permits, And then here are the residential ones. And there's something that I want to point out to you. I added something to this presentation that you're used to seeing. I added a section just about affordable housing. Timely, right? The mayor had asked us to create a work stream that is a whole group of people who do nothing but process affordable housing permits. This was to make this happen as fast as possible. What we used to do was take permit applications for affordable housing and sort of, bump them up to the top of the pile, so to speak. But now we have a dedicated team that works on affordable housing so it can happen as fast as possible. And it's working. Our permitting times are down. Multifamily permitting times we've cut from 175 days to 58 days. Single-family permitting is down from 100 days to 33. Our team is hitting it out of the park. So, of course, we have lots of inspections, and they are leveling off just, in line with the permit applications. The Office of Buildings also does code enforcement, and as usual, District 4 is leading the way. Now, our code enforcement is done by complaint. It's on a complaint basis. So that means the residents of District 4 are telling us about what's wrong. This doesn't mean you've got the most stuff wrong. It means we're hearing from y'all the most. And I want to encourage people to let us know if something needs attention. Because with code enforcement, our objective is compliance, not prosecution, just compliance. Because most people don't know that they're breaking the rules. And we let them know, and they fix it. Not everybody, but most people. The team is hard at work on our comprehensive development plan. You all know that every city and county in Georgia is required to have a comprehensive plan, a long-range plan for the city's growth and development. What you may not know is that it's required to be a grassroots effort. The Department of City Planning is to write a plan that comes from our residents. They tell us what they want for their neighborhood in the future, and we write them a plan to get it. That's how it works. So we're in the middle of our public engagement process, and we have had 12 community open houses in various places in the city. Now, these open houses were really all about a free flow of ideas, kind of the, what do you want to be when you grow up? Went too far. So we've had a lot of people participate in this process. They've come out to the meetings. They've taken the surveys that we have. We've set up pop-up meetings in places all around the city to catch people who wouldn't normally come to meetings. And so far, we've had over 1,500 people participate. It's going to be a lot more than that. So here's what we've had at the meetings, and this slide is actually wrong. At the community open houses, we had 633 people. Now, I know a lot of you were at the kickoff, but all those meetings combined in the neighborhoods added up to 633. The pop-ups have proved to be very effective as well to catch all those people that don't normally come to meetings. People have lives, jobs, children. They can't always come out and meet with us. But we're doing our best to reach people, to get them to get involved in some way. Because even if you can't come out to a meeting, you can take a survey, right? So here's what we're doing in terms of outreach. You know, when you come to our meetings and you give us your email address, well, we're going to reach back out to you. We're also on social media, on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So as I said, the open houses were very much about the free flow of ideas. People came in and saw maps with aerial photos on them so they could identify where they were on the map. And they gave us their ideas about what they would like to see change in their neighborhood. We didn't have the zoning maps out. We didn't have the future land use maps out that are currently adopted. We just wanted to hear everyone's ideas. And a lot of the big ideas of past years come from these processes. So that's why we wanted to do it this way. There was one thing we did, though, to guide the process. We defined some development patterns so that everybody could be sure that they were talking about the same thing. When I say medium density mixed use, it might mean something different to you than it does to me. So we created these definitions, and when you came to the meetings, I know you saw those poster boards up so that we were all talking about the same thing. Okay, get ready, because we're going to have another round of meetings, but these are going to be workshop meetings. So we're going to take the input we received in that first round of open houses, and we're starting to draft up those future land use maps, the ones that you're used to seeing, the ones that the planners consult when somebody asks for a rezoning. So we're going to have 16 community workshops. Let me go to this slide. I think this shows it better. Yeah. We're going to have 16 community workshops, again, all over the city. And for this round, we're also doing some on Saturday. So we hope if you came out to the first meeting, you'll come back and go to a second meeting so you can see your ideas expressed on a map. And if you weren't able to come out to the first round of meetings, come out to this one anyways, because we need your feedback on the maps that we're putting out there. And I want everybody to know that you don't have to go to the meeting that's close to where you live. You can go to any meeting because we are bringing all of the maps to every meeting. So if you live on the south side and you want to comment on the north side, that's okay. If you live on the west side and you want to comment on the east side, that's okay too. Just come on out. So here's the schedule, and you can see where we are in the process. Get ready for that second round of meetings. After we've done that, we're going to go out to the NPUs and make sure we got it right. And then from there, we're going to work on the other sections, and we hope to have the finished plan to you early next year. So here's the information about the website for the CDP. It's atlantaforall.com. There's more than one survey. There's a citywide survey, and then there's a neighborhood survey. And you can take that neighborhood survey multiple times and comment on different neighborhoods. Just everybody, please make sure you go on atlantaforall.com and give us your input for any neighborhood that you care about. You all know that we're doing the comprehensive development plan and the zoning ordinance at the same time. And that's a lot. The reason why it's important, check this out, y'all. The CDP, the comprehensive plan, that's the plan. The zoning ordinance is the law that implements the plan. So we're doing them together so that when we finish this comprehensive development plan, we're going to have the law ready to go to start to make it happen. That's the idea. Here's the process mapped out for you. On top, you see the zoning ordinance rewrite process. And on the bottom, you see the CDP process. And they align very nicely. Anybody who was at the zoning committee meeting yesterday got a really long presentation about the zoning ordinance. This is just real abbreviated. There we go. There's been quite a bit of community participation for the zoning ordinance, just like for the CDP. here's the numbers for the community engagement on the zoning ordinance. We got more than 10,000 comments on the zoning ordinance, but a lot of them were comments that were really more attributable to the CDP, right? Because the comprehensive development plan is all about what goes where. The zoning ordinance is all about what's the best way to regulate it. So, of course, there would be, people are more concerned about what goes where rather than debating the finer points of how to regulate parking garages. So you know that a new zoning map is going to come out of this zoning ordinance, and it's going to be a one-to-one translation from the current, okay? They might have, the zoning districts might have different names, but nothing's going to get a new crazy zoning. You're not going to find that your neighborhood has been rezoned to industrial or something. That's just not going to happen. It's going to be the same. Don't be worried about that. We're going to be releasing pieces of the zoning ordinance a little at a time so that everybody can study it and think it through, right? So the first one's going to be released on May 20th. That's the next meeting for the zoning ordinance. It's going to be at Habitat for Humanity. I hope you all have it on your calendars. And we're going to talk about form and use. So form is like, how big is the building? What is the scale? And, well, you all know what use is. But CDP and zoning ordinance aren't the only things that we're doing. Our historic preservation team is very busy, and I have Matt Adams here with me to tell you about the new historic designations that we have.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Matt Adams. I am the Assistant Director of the Office of Design, and I manage the city's historic preservation program. In just a minute, I'll be joined by Mr. Anthony Knight, who works in our office and manages the African American Heritage Initiative, where he'll be able to tell you a little bit of the work that we've been doing around engagement and education on the Chattahoochee Brick site. There we go. So really quickly, thank you all for your support of the Old Stone Church designation that passed last month. Understand that it passed unanimously. We really appreciate your support there. We will be doing a dedication of that site and also one of our older designations, the Philadelphia School Building over in the Cascade neighborhood, in June of this year. So we'll be reaching out to the council members in those districts and to council at large through department leadership to inform you of those dates specifically in case you would want to join us. But you can also look forward to more designation of African American and minority sites coming in the near future. With that, I'll turn things over to Mr. Anthony Knight.
Thank you, Matt, and good afternoon, everyone. So in February, we initiated a series of 5 seminars. The goal of those seminars is to talk about the Chattahoochee Brick Company site in a very broad way. And so for the first seminar, we had a professor from Morehouse, Dr. Clarissa Myrick Harris, who talked about the importance of memorialization. Our second seminar focused on the history of Native Americans in this area of Georgia, and that was led by Dr. James Brook from the UGA. Just this past Saturday, we had a professor again from Morehouse University, Frederick Knight, no relation, and Dr. Knight spoke about the African American history in this part of Georgia, particularly the 13th Amendment and other social events that kind of paved the way for convict leasing in the United States. We have 2 remaining seminars, one in May with Doug Blackman from the University, Georgia State University. He's going to talk about the former Atlanta mayor who started the Chattahoochee Brick Company, James English, as well as the labor practices of the late 19th century. And then for the final seminar, we've invited Professor Jeffrey Ogbar from the University of Connecticut to come and talk about the importance of brick as a metaphor for the city of Atlanta, particularly as it relates to race relations and segregation and other topics that are still with us today. Professor Agbar recently published a book about Atlanta, the first comprehensive book about the history of African Americans in the city. The book is called America's Black Capital, and if you've not seen it, I recommend you at least take a look at it. And Professor Agbar will be here on June 15th. So these are not meant to be deep dive conversations about the Chattahoochee Brick Company, but more to give residents and kind of an overview of where the Chattahoochee Brick Company, the site on which the Chattahoochee Brick Company sits, and the history of the city in its broadest possible perspective. And so those are the seminars that we've had since February. We partnered with the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library and Museum to host these sites on one Saturday a month, and we'll do so for the duration of the series. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt and Anthony. I hope you all can come out to our Chattahoochee Brick Company education series. They're really great. They have them at the Carter Center, and it's got convenient parking. Come on out. Next, we're going to tell you about what's happening with the tree protection ordinance, because I know everybody's dying to hear that. And I was going to tell you myself, but I brought Andrew Walter because he is managing the process, and he's going to speak to you now.
Good afternoon. This is Andrew Walter. I'm Special Projects Manager in Department of City Planning. I apologize for my voice. I'm a little hoarse right now. Up to the right. So we are in the second phase of our TPO updates. We did a first phase where we addressed what we were calling the low-hanging fruit, the less contentious issues, which we reached agreement on, and you all passed legislation last year on that. We are back again to try to address the rest of the ordinance. Phase 2, our goal now is phase 2 is the final phase, and we will get it with this one. The focus points listed up here are really just we're looking at a lot more than just tree preservation standards and tree recompense. This is just to kind of highlight that these are the significant issues that really drive the loss or gain of trees in the city. One of the things that we are very conscious of is that affordable housing is a very great need in Atlanta, and we do not want this tree ordinance to trip up either affordable housing goals or any of our other goals for the city, transportation and other goals like that. This is a much more structured process than phase 1. Phase 1 was essentially organized by me with many of the stakeholders that we had spoken to in previous efforts. This time we brought in a skilled mediator, a professional mediator, Michael Elliott from Georgia Tech, who is helping us, helped us design the process that we're going through and is mediating these meetings to make sure that we can, to help ensure that we can get past some of the difficulties that we've had in the past, reaching agreement. This process started last fall, where we identified the stakeholders for this working group that we're working on. Now, these are mostly, the people involved in the discussion this time are generally the same group of people that was involved in phase 1. In some cases, it's different individuals representing the same organizations. And then there was additional component. We brought in some affordable housing folks, and some other people speaking to equity, as well as are now involving more city employees directly in these discussions. There's a range of city staff concerns, departmental concerns, both about conservation and about, the opposite, when trees are taken down, how does that affect the operations of city projects? So the first step was identifying the members of the working group, getting their agreement to participate. It's a fairly large commitment. We were asking for 2 meetings a month, about 2 hours apiece. So it's a fair time commitment. So I applaud the members who are taking that on. Then our mediator did interviews with all of the stakeholders involved in the discussions, as well as many of the council, to understand where the points of conflict were, to where there was some alignment. and what the, kind of what the nature of those concerns were. We then started the working group discussions. We just completed the 5th last week. The 5th of what we're looking at now is a series of 10 meetings that will run through the end of June. These are the stakeholder group, or the working group, is divided up into sort of 4 general caucuses of, sort of shared interest. We've got a group representing the development community, the tree advocates, affordable housing and equity, and then city concerns. And you'll see the purpose here is the top purpose is to promote preservation and management of trees in the city. But then the second point, it gets a little bit more into the details. We are looking not just to manage the trees on a site, but also we want to take a broader view and see what we can do see what recommendations we can come up with for expanding the canopy appropriately in the right places under the right circumstances. Increasing canopy in downtown will look very different from increasing canopy in some of the residential neighborhoods. But most significantly is we are, all of this effort is to increase tree canopy, but to minimize the impacts on the developers, the homeowners, property owners, and the public projects. So it's a real balancing act. There are going to be impacts. We know that, but we're going to try to minimize them. And discuss, and the discussions will be around those things. I've already described what's here, the series of 10 meetings that we're having. And this just maps out the process. So the beginning, it was the identification of the stakeholder group, the initial interviews. We have just completed the sort of problem definition and visioning of what we want the tree canopy to look like. And now we're going to be diving into discussing, potential solutions. We're going to be breaking up over the next couple of weeks. The next full working group will not be taking place. Instead, we're going to be breaking the working group up into smaller groups so we can have more detailed, kind of more intimate discussions. It's a 24-person discussion is awkward. That doesn't allow a lot of time for any one individual to speak. So we're going to break it up into groups to try to develop some potential solutions, which we'll then bring back to the larger group and discuss the tensions around those. We are going to be wrapping this process up at the end of June. There will be a report following shortly that has the recommendations developed by the group, to the degree that we agree on these solutions for the various components and the various aspects of this ordinance, and potential programs beyond the ordinance as well. At that point, with that report, we're going to develop a draft ordinance, which we will have to you by the end of the year. End of this year, yes, end of 2024, not fiscal year, calendar year.
Can I get a blood oath?
Yes. Okay, that's it. That is the final slide. So if there's, I hand it back to.
I guess we'll do all the questions at the end. Andrew, thank you so much. Next up, we have Leah LaRue, and she is going to talk with you about the NPU 50th anniversary. To the right to advance the slide.
Thank you. Get the fun part. Good afternoon, council members. Oh, we're here already. All right, wonderful. So, Leah LaRue, Director of Neighborhood Planning Units for the Department of City Planning. As you all know, we launched our 50th anniversary of the NPUs in January of this year. We, the council, thank you for presenting the proclamation, which built a lot of excitement among the NPU leaders and all of the neighborhood leaders, and really gave them quite the opportunity to be publicly and formally acknowledged for all of their volunteer work, their super volunteer work, as I think Councilmember Boone referred to it, or Councilmember Overstreet, I believe. In February, we conducted an NPU University class. It was a first class on the history of the NPU system. We had 82 participants in that class. It was a really, really good course. As I reported, I think the last time we were here, our average participation in NPU University classes is somewhere around 65, so it's always good when we have more than that in our classes. And then we did an impromptu Legacy of Love cupcake pop-up on the second floor here for Valentine's Day to generate some awareness among city staff for our 50th anniversary events, as well as Plan A, et cetera. Also in the Legacy of Love phase, in March we had Legacy Week, wherein we celebrated former Mayor Jackson's birthday. We had Public Engagement Day here at City Hall, which brought participation from 23 city departments and partner agencies who came out to engage members of the public, talk a little bit about the initiatives and projects that they had going on, and also to collect feedback from the public. And then we had the Inheritance and Legacy of Civic Power panel discussion at Friendship Baptist Church, where Mayor Jackson's father had once pastored. And participants there were able to tour the Maynard Jackson Museum and Archives. We had on that panel former State Senator Vincent Fort, former council member Joyce Shepard, Reverend Dr. Skip Mason, and Asile Patton, who were panelists. We also had Jason Hudgens, who moderated that session for us. And then my personal highlight for that week, on that Friday, we celebrated Maynard Jackson Day at Maynard Jackson High School. We had a mock council meeting with some very excited students, and President Shipman will be glad to know that Councilmember Winston served as the council president in that session, and he did a great job moderating that very spirited debate on the curfew legislation. They took a vote and it did not pass, FYI. And then we concluded Legacy Week with a collaboration with the Mayor's office on the Maynard 50 celebration. We hosted a screening of the Maynard film at the Terra Theater in collaboration with Mayor Dickens' executive offices and the Mayor's Office of Film, Entertainment and Nightlife. And the audience had a great opportunity not only to reflect on Mayor Jackson's legacy, but also to interact with the filmmaker, his daughter-in-law, Wendy Ely Jackson, and his son, Maynard Jackson III. They also participated in brief discussion Q&A after the session, after the film. We are moving into the second phase of our three-phased celebration this year, and phase 3 starts in May. It'll be Love Thy Neighbor. We have a few things planned for May through August. We'll have a bike ride in collaboration with ATL-DOT. We'll host a few block parties in Sylvan Hills, Adamsville, and Old Fourth Ward. A Love Thy Neighbor Festival in August to celebrate the actual date that the legislation creating the NPU system was signed, August 13th. Neighborhood Spirit Week will be August 12th through the 17th, and then we're super excited to also launch our block party trailer. Oh, did I do that? I did. Oh, okay, there we go. And then lastly, looking ahead in phase 3, which begins in September, and we thought it was important to mention this part because all year and for the last couple of years, we've been hearing quite a bit, not only from council members, but certainly from members of the public, about reimagining the NPU system, making it work better for all participants. So in the third and final phase of the 50th anniversary, we will talk about planning Atlanta together. That begins in September and runs through December. We'll kick that off with the State of the NPU address in September. And then we'll do a neighborhood art gallery and photo exhibit. And then lastly, we'll begin working with neighborhood leaders and stakeholders to really map out what engagement looks like for reimagining civic participation in the city, reimagining the NPU system, and planning for some 2025 updates. That is all I have for our NPU update.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you, team. We could not do all of this work that you see and a whole lot that you don't see without this wonderful team, this Department of City Planning team. Would DCP staff members please stand up? I am the luckiest commissioner at this city because I have this team. This concludes our presentation. We're here for any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Prince and the Department of City Planning team today for a wonderful quarterly update. We've got some colleagues that want to ask a few questions and have comments, so we'll start with Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Prince, for the presentation. Thank you to the DCP team for all the phenomenal work that you do. I'm not just saying that because half of y'all are my constituents, but I appreciate y'all every single day. I guess my first question is actually for Ms. LaRue. Recognizing that the continued conversation of the MPU 50th anniversary work is ongoing, I've had particularly some of my older constituents who have had some concerns or challenges with attending some of their MPU meetings virtually. Should I direct them to that larger conversation that is happening around stakeholder engagement and more? It sounds like there's a conversation about what does engagement look like for the MPU system that's coming as part of this process. So should I just direct them to that process or to those meetings, or should I direct them to you directly if they have any questions? Just if you can talk to me through that.
Yeah, I'm always happy to take calls from constituents, always. It's tricky because as you know, the MPUs themselves determine the platform for their meetings. They determine whether they meet in person or virtually, whether they meet hybrid. We did create a hybrid pilot program, and I will tell you that it didn't work very well. The folks did not. They continued to participate virtually. We would get maybe 5, 10 people in the room. So a lot of the MPUs wanted to host hybrid meetings. They wanted to do it, but the people didn't actually want to come out in person. So they continued meeting virtually, and it didn't feel, for most of the MPU leaders we heard, that they didn't think it was worth all of the effort that they had to put in order to produce the in-person and the virtual. But I'm happy to take calls from folks on that, or they can be directed to participate when we get to phase 3 for sure.
Would you be okay if I send you some contact information?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And then while you're still there, I'm just curious if the mock city council also included a public comment period.
It did include a public comment period, and it was lit.
As it always is.
It did.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then for Andrew, I just wanted to ask, well, I was going to ask how these meetings were going, but based on your quality of your voice, I imagine it's been a very fruitful conversation. Just my comment is, and I think you kind of hear that echoed with my colleagues behind this dais, is that there's a lot of desire to pass legislation this year and move this forward, and so that we can put to rest all the angry emails and just there's a lot of interest around moving this forward, especially in the conversations we've had around climate change, how we're more resilient towards climate change. This puts us in a better direction. But I just want to, and apologies to my colleagues if I'm speaking too much on your behalf, but I think there's a lot of desire to get legislation passed this year. And I thank you and your team for doing the hard work. The last round of TPO conversations I was a part of, and I know how that room is a very tense room. And so just thank y'all for doing the hard work to get us to the point where we can make our city better for the future, and we just want to make it happen. So I just want to reiterate that.
Sure, we hear you loud and clearly about the time, and have been hearing you about that. So we will move as fast as we can on that.
Thank you so much. Sloppy. Thank you. And then just my last question for the commissioner. I know I ask this every time, but I got to ask it again. Short-term rentals. Where we are on that. I get a lot of emails from concerned constituents about party houses and other, negative things impacting their communities. When they say it's a VRBO or an Airbnb, I always direct them to those hotlines that those companies have, but it's not always one of those companies. And I know the enforcement tool that the initial legislation passed in 2021 had contemplated is not live because we're contemplating new legislation. What guidance can I give my constituents that are still dealing with party houses and all these other social situations? I know we tell them to call 911 if there's a public safety situation, but oftentimes it gets kicked back that, hey, this is a civil issue, it's a private property owner and private property owner, but folks are just looking for relief. What can I tell my constituents?
Two things. We'll be bringing the short-term rentals ordinance back to you very soon. There was a bill introduced in the legislature, and we had to wait and see what happened with that before we could bring it back. But the problem isn't so much short-term rentals as it is party houses. It is illegal in the city of Atlanta to rent a residentially zoned property for an event. That's not part of the short-term rentals ordinance. That's separate, and we have some difficulty enforcing it. And we're going to be looking into some additional code enforcement. We're going to be meeting with the police department about this because those violations tend to take place at night and on the weekends. And our code enforcement people, although they work 7 days a week, they work a normal business hour schedule. So we are going to need to do additional coordination with the police department on this. On your agenda, there is a budget transfer for DCP, and that is about our short-term rental software, the enforcement, so we can do that. This is moving forward, even though it isn't right out in the public eye. It is all happening.
Okay. And I'll just say, too, I recognize that, I used the phrase party houses. I think oftentimes what happens is folks rent an Airbnb and they, it could be just 4 or 5 people just hanging out, having a good time, but they may not be very neighborly. And so it may not be a party house situation, but the situation that's created from the noise or who they have over, they're unfamiliar to neighbors on the street, they're unfamiliar to neighbors on the block. And that's where the big concern comes from is folks not being neighborly. And, it's hard to enforce a civil issues if someone who's staying in an STR is throwing their trash in my yard. I'm going to have that conversation. But it compounds, especially for these houses that are used to being used in that way. And so I get a lot of same calls from a lot of same neighbors. And unfortunately, because the enforcement mechanism isn't working in the way that was contemplated in initial legislation, there are just fewer tools available to community members, to MPUs, to neighborhood organizations to address it in the way that we would like to see happen. So just reiterate and implore the department and implore city leadership across the board that we want to have this addressed as soon as we can because our communities are hurting and need support as best as possible.
Yes, sir.
Here I yield.
Thank you. And next we have Councilmember Mary Norwood.
Yes, and Andrew, I just want to reiterate that as fast as y'all can get an ordinance to us, I will, having participated in all 3 tree protection ordinances all the way back to 2002, I will do everything I can to count to 8 and get y'all the votes, and let's go. So I echo the sentiment of my colleague. We're ready to go. I'm in the part of town that's lost the most trees. It's a very dramatic map. So as fast as we can, and let us help run some interference for you if we need to. We'll be glad to. And one more thing, Commissioner, I love the new zoning. I was here yesterday for zoning committee, and I love the way that y'all are proceeding with that. It's revolutionary, and really, I think is going to be a fabulous tool for our neighborhoods getting the protection they deserve, as well as the reinforcement of the unique character and identity they bring to our city. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. We're excited about it too.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Norwood. Next we have Council President Shipman.
How does that work? Thank you. I just want a couple of things I just wanted to ask about, we had a work session a couple of weeks ago around with Watershed regarding new runoff regulations that they're contemplating. I just want to make sure that there's coordination with your department when it comes to permits and inspections and anticipating those changes, which are pretty significant in the design elements of those. I know there's been a lot of work, but I just want to ask that question.
We're working very closely with them on a number of things, particularly with changes to the zoning ordinance and the permit streamlining. We're talking all the time.
So you're comfortable that you'll be able to implement the changes that they're contemplating within those various structures of approvals and inspections and such?
Yes.
Okay. And the other, at this point, this may be a question specifically regarding the tree protection ordinance, but at the end of the day, what specific problem are we trying to solve with the TPO revisions?
So we were instructed to address the tree preservation standards and the recompense. However, in doing so, we have found a lot of places in the ordinance that could be written better, that would be more efficient, more effective, would work better together with our zoning ordinance and other related ordinances. So we want to do this right. We don't want to keep coming back to you every other year with changes.
So can I take from that comment that even though the TPO is preceding the zoning conversation, that the zoning changes will reflect what is likely to come out of the TPO report?
Yes, they have to work together because there are requirements regarding trees in the zoning ordinance as well, of course, in the TPO. So they have to work together. Our zoning ordinance consultant is speaking with our team all the time, and we have it set up so that the two processes are running concurrently and that they can be coordinated.
Okay, thank you. Just want to ask those process questions.
All right, thank you, Council President. Next, we have Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari.
Thank you. Hey, Commissioner. Again, want to also piggyback on what Councilmember Norwood said and commend y'all for the presentation yesterday on zoning. And you may hear me reiterate a couple of my questions from yesterday, so I apologize in advance for that. To piggyback I'm glad that Council President asked about the watershed issue, so I'm glad to hear that is happening. I also, and again, to reiterate again what I stated yesterday, again on the permeable spaces in zoning, excited to see that because my district, which is being rapidly developed, the amount of impermeable space, we are dealing with a lot of flooding as a result. So wanted to flag that again. In terms of the tree ordinance, I wanted to also, given the fact that we are running out of space to plant trees, mapping plantable areas, from my understanding that y'all have been in discussion with Brian Stone from the Urban Climate Lab. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Well, actually, that's one of the things you remember you saw on the membership of the committee working on the tree protection ordinance. Mm-hmm. Some of the members are city staff.
Right.
Because we do have our own ideas about what will make the tree protection ordinance work better. And one of the things is that the tree trust fund is very limited in terms of buying land. You can buy land that is 80% forested with the money from the tree trust fund, but you can't buy land just to plant trees on it, like unforested land. You can't buy just, well, why not?
A great question.
So that's the sort of thing that we want to tackle, more places for more trees.
If there is a way for us to lower, because I believe what is a 50% canopy right now before we can even consider using our dollars to purchase property?
I'm going to have to ask David.
Is it higher than that? 80?
Yeah.
So to that point, and thank you, David, wherever you.
With Andrew that answered.
Andrew? Oh, is it Andrew? Hey, Andrew. To that point, and I think, Andrew, this is something we can also discuss, is lowering that number, because how can we plant back? To me, it seems a bit counterintuitive to not purchase property that has lower canopy because we want to plant on areas that have lower canopy to create more of it. But the thing that consistently keeps me up at night when I think about this, and the reason we did the heat vulnerability assessment, is when I look at, for example, Councilmember Boone's district or parts of Councilmember Dozier's district where heat-related deaths are higher because of energy burden and because of over-paving, because of redlining and other issues. And even parts of Councilmember Norwood's district that I've looked at where you have people in much older houses that want to weatherize them but are unable to because of cost. Being able to be intentional with that planning. So yes, tackling recompense and everything else. But what I would really hope is being able to look at plantable areas and measuring that with the areas that have the highest number of heat-related deaths. And finding out how we can have a direct, targeted approach by looking at not just plantable areas, but looking at reflective roofing, looking at green top roofing, looking at banning blacktop roofing, or maybe even having solar, and trying to figure that out, which is why we're also trying to do the Clean Energy Fund to allow for affordable weatherization. But Andrew, I see that you have gotten up. I'll let you.
I'd like to say a few words about, I guess, what I see the TPO is doing. And the TPO is, it is a tree regulation ordinance, but it is primarily a development ordinance. And it's going to look at the treatment of trees on a lot-by-lot basis. Following that will be, Parks is going to be doing the urban forest master plan. And I see that as the place where the planting programs, where the targeted, the identification of planting areas, discussion of planting, some of the discussion around planting, I think for the TPO should include planting on private property. And that will, but where those locations are, I think is a follow-up study. And I would like to follow up with Brian Stone to take the data that he's got or have a final report that we can use to build a planting program and identify those precise sites. I've only seen a kind of a general summary of it.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to be able to also direct better some of our partners, because overplanting the same areas over and over again when we know trees are going to die because they're in the right of way with no room for critical root zone. Great that you're getting your numbers in, but how are you helping? So also being able to direct better.
And planting standards are part of the discussion for the TPO, and understanding that trees planted in small spaces don't live very long and don't accomplish what they...
And the low-hanging fruit piece, like developers being able to go to a neighbor on a neighboring property that are developing to get them to take out a tree that may be impact. Just pieces like that. So I'll follow up with you on the low-hanging fruit piece. I understand that recompense and some of those are higher priority and need to be tackled in these meetings. And if you could also encourage developers to not use terms like greenlining, because that is reverse redlining and they should not be able to use that to talk about their plight of development. Really tone deaf. So just flagging that again. But I will follow up with you offline on the low-hanging fruit piece, because I also want to be respectful that you are working through this process and have a mediator, but at the same time, being respectful, and I also know that the majority of my constituents make up the civilian part of that panel, but also trying to be cognizant of the fact that we are running out of time for plantability. And it is a major issue when it comes to resiliency, when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to climate change, when it comes to those things. So that's one. And I also have not had the mediator reach out to me, so if you could ask him to do that, please, I would like to be able to speak with him. Thank you. And
I thought he had done so already.
And and Andrew, you've been fantastic, so thank you so much. And I'm very grateful for the work and time you and the commissioner put into this. And I do have a question for Office of Buildings real quickly.
Kim and Tiana, could you please come up here? I have two assistant directors here.
Oh, I know, they're the two of my favorite people. And by that, I mean, I called them, poor director, Leonard has to.
We have Kimberly Craig and Tiana Leonard here from the Office of Buildings. They are both assistant directors.
I first want to commend Kimberly for everything she's had to put up with from Pullman Yards and everything that you've dealt with there. So thank you so much for everything you've dealt with in my district. And Director Leonard, for constantly taking my calls. I'm appreciative of you. The issue that's consistently come up in our district is COs being granted before sidewalks and other things are put in. Is there a way for us to tighten up that operation? Because understandably, that is a newer ordinance within the last couple of years, right before we came on council. But if we can, we're having an issue right now with COs being granted before developers fulfill their obligation of putting in sidewalks for new development. Or at least I'm getting reports on that, not all the time, but often enough.
Hi, Tiana Leonard, Assistant Director of the Office of Buildings. Yes, there is typically when there's a sidewalk required, there's a hold that can be placed in the system. So we can be more diligent there.
Okay.
I know sometimes there are waivers involved, you know,
Yes.
where they're placing sidewalks in other areas. And so just being consistent and communicating across from the Office of Buildings and the Office of Zoning and Development, making sure that when those waivers are in place, that information is common.
So I've only done one waiver so far, but if that is the case where it comes up, I will ensure that when I write Director Holmes for that, I will CC both DC Craig and you, as well as Director Pace.
Yes.
To ensure that there's nothing lost there. But we've also started a District 5 sidewalk fund. So I'm also hoping to work with Office of Buildings to say, okay, you don't want to find a place, or you live on a dead end, you don't want to put it in a sidewalk, or you already have one, or you've tried to put it in somewhere else and you can't get that neighbor on board because they don't want to impact a tree root, pay into this sidewalk fund. Or would it help if council members came up with a list of where we want sidewalks put in? I'm trying to find a way to make the process more efficient. So is that something I should?
I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Yes.
So I will, well, DC Leonard, buckle up because you're gonna have to deal with me a whole lot more. So I appreciate you. So I will reach out to both you all to find out how to better set that up so that we can actually have developers paying into that fund to help with sidewalk impact fees for districts instead.
Site development, sorry,
With watershed?
watershed.
Okay.
Watershed really governs a lot more of that than we do on that end.
Okay.
You know, they give us the stipulations, we make them abide by it. However, a lot of the sidewalks and things like that are governed through that watershed department and not as much as DCP.
Understood.
Public Works, watershed.
Thank you.
Definitely reach out to them because they were the ones who can really make a bigger impact on that than the Office of Buildings can.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do all we can.
Thank you all very much. And Commissioner, I'll stop talking your ear off. I'm done. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Bakhtiari. I did have one question as it pertains to the short-term rental legislation. I've seen an increase in both RV and campers as well as swimming pools now on rental sites, and it's becoming something that I'm hearing more and more about in my district, and just wanted to know what are your thoughts on that fitting into this entire short-term rental equation?
Not sure about the RVs. I'm going to need to check on that. But with the swimming pools, typically that would be for an event, which would fall under the party house ordinance. So not allowed.
So renting of a pool at a residential home, there's a site, Swimly, there's apps that allow it.
Not allowed.
Okay, so not allowed, City of Atlanta. RV and campers I'm seeing also on various short-term rental sites in my district.
I'm going to check on that one. I know that it is not specifically mentioned in the ordinance, so I'm going to want to consult with law because that may be an amendment that we need to make before we bring the ordinance back. Let's get it right the first time.
Okay, so seeing that, and then also I wanted to just bring up another issue that has started to be persistent in my district is where insurance companies are doing unsuspected, I guess, inspections on homes for their roofs, for their trees, and I have had several insurance companies who have either dropped or threatened to drop a homeowner's insurance because of trees that are in certain areas in proximity to their home, or their roofer is in certain conditions. So I've had conversations with constituents. We've had some where the insurance companies have asked them to remove a tree that was not deemed necessary to remove, where our arborists have had to get involved in terms of, being in that process to help them preserve those trees. And I'm just seeing more and more of this being an issue. I know that's more of a state issue, but just bringing it to your attention that I've seen the need to be able to bring some of the arborists into the fold in some of these conversations.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Okay. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Sorry, I had one other question, Commissioner. I know I briefly mentioned this to you yesterday, and I wanted to ask Law also. With the short-term rental ordinance, I know that Airbnb has somebody on staff, but is there any chance that I'm going to ask, I don't expect the answer to happen now, but if we could look into if there is a possibility to require that VRBO, Airbnb, these individuals have staff in our city to help manage some of these issues. If it's possible to require there to be some sort of headquarters or some sort of person on the ground here to help with the management of problem properties that are given on there that they continue to allow to operate on their sites. So
I'll bring that up to law as well.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, we appreciate your quarterly update. Next, we have the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau Annual Report. We'll bring up Mr. Pate.
Chairman Winston, President Shipman, members of the council. It's great to be with you all today. We're going to do two things. We're going to, Mark is going to give you an update on the convention business and our tourism business in the city. And then Dan Corso, who's the president of the Atlanta Sports Council, is going to come and talk to you about the World Cup and where we are in planning with FIFA, and then we'll take any questions that you have. Okay?
Good afternoon. Welcome. Nice to see you all again.
See you.
Want to start off our mission. I know you all know what we do and what we're charged to do day in and day out here in Atlanta. But it's never always good to just show that to all our constituents from time to time. Taking a look at 22, the 23 numbers should be in here, and I'd say a couple, but within a month to firm everything up, but we can give you a good idea where we think we're going to be there. But the end of 22, 290 jobs in metro area. Metro area is so many of our the people that work to service, provide goods and services, have facilities and things outside of city limits. And service the other convention centers in the metro area. So it's pretty big industry all in all. And nearly 50 million visitors in 2022, just a little shy of that, and a record high 18 billion in visitor spending. And you could, the employment numbers here forecasted to be right at 300,000 in 2023. Well, like I said, we'll get that here in the next month. We talked about the visitors and then the visitor spend. I think the nice thing to know here is that things are continuing to move in a positive direction, both visitation-wise and on the spending side as well. You might recall last year we launched a partnership program with Michelin. We had been, working with them for a couple of years. Some of our competitors had launched programs with them, but we wanted a platform really to highlight Atlanta's restaurant scene here, which is superior to most of our competitors, to be honest with you. And this is a great vehicle. It's a 3-year commitment on our side, and so it'll continue to evolve over the next 2 years, where more restaurants will be in the program, doesn't have anything to do really with us. It's all outsourced, where people come in, experience it, grade it, comment on it, food, service, quality, everything, soup to nuts, and it's a pretty rigid process, but something we feel like was desperately needed here, and it really helps us elevate destination appeal here in Atlanta. And the hits keep on coming. Best places to travel in Money Magazine last year, and then again named the best places to live in the United States and last year and this year. So these are two things that we take on the road with us, talk about. This is a good place to live. You might as well want to be a good place to visit as well. So good stuff for us. And North Star Meetings Group. This is it's a kind of a complicated process, but it's really you're scored on the various items there. whether it be exhibit space, hotel rooms, hotel costs, various airport and those safety, those sort of things. And actually Atlanta indexes very high there. In fact, we're number one. And I think, as we look at our convention market here, we talk about, we got to get here, you got to meet here, you got to eat here, and you got to sleep here. And we score very, very high in all of those areas. Signia Hilton Atlanta opened at the Congress Center here in January. It's a fantastic hotel. Hopefully you've been there. It's the second Signia branded hotel, the first Signia new build, with over 100,000 square feet of meeting space connected right to the Congress Center. And, many people ask me, well, what did that do to, what's that going to do for Atlanta? Well, I'll tell you, in the first quarter of this year, the 7 convention hotels are up 9.1% in demand, hotel room demand, and that includes the Hilton in there too. So 9.1%, where they finished 10.4% last year in hotel demand. So we're off to a good start, and adding more product to the market has certainly been a good selling point for us there. Our dashboard here going forward looks very positive. This year is going to be a great year. Next year is turning in to be a really good year and moving on out. I think one of the things I'm going to point out here to you that's important as we look forward on many of the things that we do here, whether it be sporting events or big conventions, festivals, whatever they might be, is if you look at the kind of mauve on, it starts in 2027 there, where we have 7 in there, and then 11, and then we 10, and then 11. I think the number 11 is really important to us. These are 11 major trade shows that have committed to the city for multiple years. They're listed as a tentative now. We only carry 3 years as a definite, but for all intents purposes going out. And so when you think about things like poultry and egg and woodworking and America's Mart and all that we have a pretty good insurance policy here as we move forward, and filling in the pieces in between there is really our challenge. But this was a strategic decision outside of the ones that have been here for a while. We've got numerous other ones. The convenience store show, Modex, who was just here, meets here every other year. Groups like that we needed to have a good base of business going forward in order to fill in with other groups, and that's paid off for us. Hotel demand, as you can see, is moving in the right direction. Had a great convention year last year. The Midtown Buckhead markets stabilizing some, you'd say from 22 to 23. A lot of that's more business travel generated, where that would be the lagging indicator that's still going on right now, but they're off to a good start this year as well. So I think the story here is that the demand for hotel rooms in all 3 areas of City of Atlanta are doing well. When you do well, people take a look at you, and it's nice to hope the hotel inventory was on the planning side there, but there are a lot of hotel projects within the City of Atlanta that are either in design, in final design, headed to construction, or in construction right now. So our hospitality market and portfolio is going to continue to get modern, improved, and more options and more opportunities for us to attract more visitors to the city. We talked a little bit last year about some of the major events that we host. We did American Society of Association Executives last year, if you recall. This year we have Global Business Travel Association, and then we'll have them again in 2029. There are a lot of companies headquartered here in Atlanta that supply the business travel segment. Delta Airlines would probably be the major one. And so it's good to have this group in here. A lot of the attendees also work in the purchasing area, which spin off on the media and convention side as well. So it's really a 2-for-1 for us. The Georgia Governor's Conference will be here this September, and then the Travel South International Showcase in December. There are about 160 international travel buyers that will be in the market. Travel South is a group of the southern states. I believe there's 11 southern states that we host them and try to convince them to generate more tours and opportunities for us. And talking about international, we are right back up to pre-pandemic level right now with a little over 20,000 seats per day, 96 departing flights, and 18 foreign carriers now. This is a tremendous asset for us as we go to market. You can get pretty much all over the world from Atlanta, to and from Atlanta, nonstop, and it's a tremendous asset for us. And international visitation, as you can see, is on the rise, and we look for it to continue to rise as forecasted there. Let me throw in here, I thought it was kind of interesting when I saw it, but survey done recently by a major publication asked members, readers, where they've been in the last 12 months. And as you can see, Georgia fares fairly well there when you look at some of our competitors. And I think that's goes back to the nearly 50 million visitors we have here in Atlanta, and then of course outside of Metro Atlanta, all over the state, people are looking at Georgia. And so my takeaway for this would be that people are thinking about Georgia, and I think when people think about Georgia, you have to think about Atlanta. Future sporting events, and we talked about the Copa event coming in. I think this is going to be a really big deal this year, and that'll kind of set the stage for what's going to happen here in 2026. We'll let Dan talk about that. College football championship in 2025. This was the first year that it was going to a 12-team format. So we had it. We're working on it in kind of the old format, and then when they expanded it, so we had to move the dates and a lot of logistical things, but we worked it all out. And then we'll have a men's regional basketball Sweet 16 tournament here in 25, as well as an MLB All-Star game in 25. And so lots of good stuff going on there. And of course, future bids for Super Bowl and NBA All-Star game are in the works right now as well. I'm going to let Dan come up and talk about the World Cup. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Dan Corso with the Atlanta Sports Council. Work closely with William and Mark and the ACVB, the City of Atlanta, many partners in this city to bring sporting events to Atlanta. And the slide that you saw earlier is just kind of a recent example of some of the things that we've been able to land for the city. I would be remiss if I didn't mention our friend who was talking pickleball earlier. Maybe we need to put a little pickleball on our target list. So there you go. But as we prepare for the world's biggest sporting event, FIFA World Cup, I would give you a little history on that. The last time the FIFA World Cup was held in the U.S. was 1994. Atlanta was not a host city. In 1996, Atlanta hosted the Summer Olympic Games, and nearly 30 years later, we'll be hosting the FIFA World Cup. Two of the biggest sporting events in the world coming through Atlanta. We are, along with Los Angeles, the only city in America to host both Summer Olympic Games and the World Cup. So points of interest there. The World Cup gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's held every 4 years. The last time it was held in 2022 in Qatar, it held 32 countries participating. In 2026, there will be 48 countries participating. Mark had a great slide earlier on the international lift of Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. 44 countries, I think, were listed on that graphic. We have reached to every country participating potentially in this tournament. So the tournament is so big that it will take 16 host cities over the course of 30 days, 2 in Canada, 11 in the US, and 3 in Mexico. Our events are listed there. We will have 8 matches, as just announced by FIFA a couple of months ago. Beginning on June 15th of 2026, we will host our first match, and we will host our last match on July 15th of 2026, which is the semifinal. So 8 matches in 30 days, about 1 every 4 days if you average it out. Not bad. Economically, it's going to drive visitation, which is part of the purpose of hosting these big sporting events, much like conventions. It brings visitors to our city. And similar to what Invest Atlanta does on the economic development, about trying to recruit companies to Atlanta, we recruit sporting events for that economic impact and for that visitation. Planning has just begun with FIFA. We will host them on a regular basis this year and throughout the next 2 years and 2 months as we prepare to host the event. The next milestone, by way of big announcements, is in December of 2025, which is when FIFA will hold the tournament draw, which is when we will then know which countries will participate in our 8 matches, December of 2025. I will tell you, traditionally, the draw for FIFA's World Cup is televised. It draws a bigger audience than the Super Bowl globally, just for the teams to be determined. It's pretty amazing. So we look forward to it. We can't do it without the partnership of this council and the City of Atlanta, the ACVB, and many, many organizations without the region. Thank you for your time.
Any questions on anything?
Thank you. I appreciate the update. Yes, we do have some questions. We'll start off with Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Pay. Good to see you again.
Great to see you.
Good to see your team again as well. I have a handful of questions, so I'm going to try to get through them quickly because I know we've been in Q&A for various things all
I'll give you
afternoon.
quick answers. How about that? Or we'll give you a quick answer.
The first one is I am really curious. I know at least one of the slides for international visitation. Y'all had data going back to like 2018, but a lot of the other slides only started in 2020. I know we had a huge decline in visitation in 2020. I'm curious how we're looking compared to pre-pandemic.
Sure. So the quick answer to that is when we went into at the end of 2019, we had 57 million visitors. Now we have 50. Those are comparable numbers, so we're a little bit behind. And part of the challenge, or a part of the catch-up, is the convention. And you saw that on the bar chart slides. If you looked at the bottom bar chart, you saw that we weren't quite up on visitors in some of those years. Part of the problem is the conventions are back. The attendance is still a little slow. For us, about 15% of the attendees of the biggest conventions are international visitors. And we've been waiting the last 3 years for Delta to redo their routes internationally so we can start bringing those people back in. They're now fully routed, as Mark told you. So we're going to continue to see a lot of catch up there.
Okay. And then as we think about attracting bigger and bigger conventions to help plug that gap, I know we've invested a lot of money into the airport in terms of people's first impression of Atlanta. When they get off the plane, they see this wonderful, well-invested, well-resourced facility. They hop on the MARTA, come downtown. I'm curious if there's been any sort of conversations or investments being made by the state into the Georgia World Congress Center. I imagine upgrading the facility might open the city up to bigger and better sort of.
Well, the Georgia World Congress Center has done, is it $6 billion? The Georgia World Congress Center has done a significant investment the last 3 years in 3 areas. Renovating the park, building that bus terminal that you see that's in front of Mercedes-Benz Stadium now so we get the buses through. We connected building B and C so that we now have 1 million square feet of contiguous space. There are only 4 convention centers in the country that have that. So now there have been conventions that wanted to come here that couldn't come here because we didn't have that. Now we have that, and we're already starting to see some of those conventions come through. And then, of course, the investment the state made in the Signia. So, and they continue to make investments in maintenance and things like that.
Okay. Thank you. And then one of the things I think about, so I represent a big part of downtown Atlanta, but I also represent communities as far west as West End, Oakland City, communities with a lot of historic businesses. I imagine many convention goers or tourists want to get a uniquely Atlanta experience when they visit. Is there anything that y'all are doing to partner, whether it's Invest Atlanta or with Metro Atlanta Chamber, to connect maybe tourists or visitors to some of our local businesses that have been in continuous operation?
Well, we have, on our website, which is where most people come to kind of figure out what to do, we have neighborhood sections.
Okay.
And ways to connect to those neighborhoods. So because part of our, I think I've told you all this before, when we get people here, we want to get in their pockets as often as we can, right? We want to support all the businesses. So we're trying to push everybody out to all the different neighborhoods and parts of the city. There's a section in our website called Atlanta Unguided, which is specific to African-American travelers, to talk about, we also have that for LGBTQ, and we're building one now for Hispanic travelers. So we're trying to also go down an extra level to give travelers who have specific interests to understand where those opportunities are in the city. And so.
Okay. And then just for your awareness, one of the things that our office has been working on with Invest Atlanta and administration is, knock on wood, in the coming months, we'll be announcing legacy business programs, so emphasizing and highlighting businesses that have been continuous operation for a long time, that are pillars of our communities and could always use some additional love from ACV.
Absolutely. And believe me, any way we can do that, we want to do it, because like I said, the more all the small, and it's mostly small businesses that support our industry, the more successful they are, the more successful the city is. Quite honestly, the easier it is to sell. So we're kind of all connected together.
And then my last question is related to the World Cup. One of the things that, like I said, I'm a little biased here. I represent most of downtown. I don't have Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but I do have State Farm Arena. I do have the Centennial Yards development. I know with the Olympics, there was a lot of coordination of philanthropic and private dollars to reinvest in our city core to help make the fan experience not only great for the event, but also in the years and decades beyond. I didn't know if the Sports Council was doing similar sort of pooling of philanthropic dollars to reinvest. I know World Cup is coming in T-minus 18 months or so, but just as an advocate for my district and for downtown, would love to see what's going on, and hopefully, we have all these projects happening as part of Moving Atlanta Forward and LMIG and all these sorts of things, but the more we can lean on our private and philanthropic partners to help us move the needle, I think the better we'll be overall as a city and as a community.
I agree with you, and you referenced the Metro Atlanta Chamber earlier. They are going to be taking that on as a potential preparation, but also long-term, long past the World Cup. So, yes. And I think Atlanta's come a long way since '96, right? And to the work of this body and others to prepare and make us a welcoming, fan-friendly, great experiential city, which is, quite frankly, why we keep getting these events back. The slide that William showed earlier, or Mark showed earlier, a lot of those events were repeat business. So they're coming back for a reason, because of the experience. So to your point, we'll continue to add to that.
Okay. Thank you. And I think that was my last question, Mr. Chair. I yield.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Dozier. Next, Council President Chipman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, folks, for the great presentation. Just a few questions. One, I know China visitation had historically been a big part of international. Where does that stand right now? What are we seeing from Chinese visitors?
Lagging. Yeah. It was, I'm trying to remember the exact number. I believe it was 30,000, I think it was, at its peak. The value in Chinese visitors particularly is not so much the number, but the amount they spend, because they spend over $1,000, 7 times what a typical visitor spends. So, but all of that, almost all of that is driven by Delta. I shouldn't put it on them, but it's connectivity. And so, getting those routes back and getting that connectivity back to Atlanta will help us. You know, we're doing things, as a matter of fact, on the national level. We just had, we're getting ready to have another U.S.-China summit, the first one we've had since COVID, to encourage Chinese travelers to come back to the United States. That's at a national level. We'll participate in that, and we'll benefit from that if we, you know, as we see that rise.
There's a bullet point on the last slide that says safety, sustainability, and community engagement becoming increasingly more important. Can you talk about the sustainability part of that? What part of sustainability is becoming important in your business?
Yeah, it's it probably came out really hot and heavy. It was always there, but really elevated during the pandemic, I would say, where I think people looked at, okay, what do we want our RFPs to say now? What do we want? What do we want to understand about the opportunities where we can engage with cities on a sustainability project or something like that? And so a couple of years ago, we partnered with a Marriott Travel Company, who's a partner of ours, and they came in and kind of coached us on where we ought to be and spent a couple of days in the market. I closed up with them, asked them at dinner, where would you say we rank? And they say, they wouldn't give a number on where else they'd been, but they would put us in the upper tier. Our challenge is trying to take all this stuff and put it together. And then how do you maintain it? We're engaged right now with the airport. There's so much stuff going on at the airport, sustainability-wise, that will knock us off the chart. And all parts of the city. But imagine all the hotels in Atlanta trying to really understand what each one of them are doing, sustainability. The big change you might have seen yesterday, Marriott's got a 2050 sustainability, zero carbon and those things. But it takes a lot of work from a lot of people. We would be the the gatekeeper of that, and then have to keep it refreshed. So we're not there yet, but we're moving fast and furious. We have to, because our customers are wanting it and really demanding it. The Congress Center's got an awful lot of sustain. You talk about LEED certified stadium, LEED certified hotel, LEED certified convention center, LEED certified arena, and the compostable effort they have at the arena are just a few that just blow people away, really. So,
thanks. Just curious if you've seen, we've got several newer industries that are emerging in Georgia and Atlanta, film and TV, payments, electric car batteries, et cetera. Are we seeing convention buyers in those industries yet? Do those industries even do conventions?
Yeah, no, everybody does a convention.
Okay, there you go. So are we seeing,
everybody.
Are we seeing those industries starting to reflect in the convention?
Yes, we are in some areas. The one that's probably the biggest and easiest to see is logistics. We have MODEX, which is the second largest logistics convention in the country. As they were widening the port and all the logistics business that started coming towards Atlanta, they selected us. I think they've been coming now probably about 10 years. But yeah, we do, and we target those businesses. I mean, we look for, when we have a lot of things that are attracted to the medical profession, CDC, all those sorts of things. And so, you know, we try every trigger we can to sell. And some of those industries, you know, even if they're not, say, even take like electric batteries, even if it's not a huge industry yet, until we're at 100% occupancy every day, we always got room for somebody else, right? And so we try to, you know, fill in. Mark was talking earlier about, we try to fill in even with those smaller conventions, what we say, stack the city as efficiently as we can, because something like that could happen just in a hotel. And if we have a hotel that's not participating in a big convention block and we could run something in that hotel, that's just added spend in the city.
Makes sense. wanted to just highlight, I usually highlight when we talk, but there are several new arts initiatives happening this fall, including a big arts fair that's coming to Atlanta that I know you know about. But I'm hopeful that we can bring all of our resources to bear. That arts fair related to Atlanta Arts Week has some real potential long term. Just two questions for Dan. One, could you just touch on, we were talking beforehand, but just for everybody, the Women's World Cup situation for the next Women's World Cup?
Thank you. So as the U.S. prepares to host the Men's World Cup in 2026, the U.S. Soccer has joined with Mexico to bid for the 2027 Women's World Cup. Last time the Women's World Cup was held in the U.S. was 1999, so it's been a while. The U.S. and Mexico are up against Brazil. Brazil is also bidding for it, and that decision is expected from FIFA within the next 30 days. I will tell you this, FIFA and holding timelines, not exactly the best reputation so far, but we'll trust that they will stay to that. So within 30 to 45 days, we should know whether the U.S. and Mexico will be a host country, and then the process will begin for cities to then get involved.
And then one other question related to World Cup that I get asked a lot. When will small businesses be able to start to get information about participating, being vendors, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, FIFA will organize that as they will in the other 10 U.S. cities. They're working on having a national program that will then be localized to where small businesses within the region, within the city, respectively across the country can sign up and put their information in. They still don't know, quite frankly, the types of businesses that they'll need, but they certainly are aware that local businesses should be a part of the hosting across the country. So that will be all worked through the FIFA system once it's announced, and we'll get that out.
And then if a company is going to do something around the World Cup time, because obviously we see this during Super Bowls, right? A firm may say, hey, we're going to have something for our national folks or global folks. Is that also going to be organized through FIFA, or can y'all play a role in saying, hey, if your business wants to use local businesses in the same time frame, maybe you don't even use the word FIFA, right? But can we also have something along those lines? Because I anticipate there's going to be a lot of knock-on effect here.
I agree with you, and we will work. That will be through us at the Atlanta Sports Council, also working in partnership with the City of Atlanta. We want everybody potentially to be involved and host a viewing party, a fan fest, a block party, whatever they can do to benefit. We want everyone to celebrate this. We also want to protect small companies from using the logo. Because they're not legally allowed to use the logo unless they have permission from FIFA. So we want to protect them for that. So we'll educate companies and small businesses in the area about the protocol and how to get involved in that process so that they're doing it the right way.
Got it. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
That's all for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Doing well. And everyone has already asked you quite a few questions, so I actually only have one. And I first want to thank you for coming to my office and speaking with me. Absolutely. And making the time. I'm very appreciative. I want to just follow up on one thing that we discussed about, and you touched on it a little bit a moment ago, Dan, is trying to, if I can, one of the things that we discussed was uplifting the small businesses in our districts. And I know what you just said, and that FIFA will do that, but would it be just for, not even just FIFA, but just working with the Visitors Bureau in general, is what we talked about, is going ahead and having the permission to compile the business information to send over to you all, to just go ahead and have that prepared. Would that be something that you all would be amenable to go ahead and jump?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to, so
I just answered for you, but I know the answer was yes.
Because they'll ask us.
So
and I think, I think also, as we discussed in your office, the CVB has a partnership with the Atlanta Business League, where their member companies are tied in when we do big conventions, big sporting events and things like that, and people looking for vendors. So again, we want everybody to have, and this is a huge industry, probably the largest industry in the city, certainly in terms of financial impact. And we want everybody to be a part of that. And there are a lot of ways small businesses can touch visitors. So anything we can do to get more companies in front of the folks that are buying, we're 100% behind.
And then I'm going to go ahead and reach out to everybody on every neighborhood page and everywhere in my district, and go ahead and get a Google form together to go ahead and get that information to send over to you.
Now but again, right, I'm trying to think of a business that, it has to be a business that connects to hospitality.
Yep.
Like a lawn service is probably, we're not going to.
No. I'm talking about food service. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So food service industry is what I'm sticking with. Is that okay?
Fantastic,
Okay,
yes.
great.
We need more food service, so that would be fantastic.
And so I will get working on that and get it sent over to you. Thank you.
Yep.
I just wanted to check before I launch that initiative. So I
No,
appreciate
absolutely.
it.
That would be great.
Thank you. Any other questions? I had one question for the Sports Council. Are you all connecting with our Department of Parks and Recreation to connect the Atlanta youth to the World Cup? I mean, I think we've learned a lot of lessons from having big events. We want to make sure that our average constituents are being able to participate.
Yes, and as well as the school systems to get the students out as well. We'll be working with Station Soccer, and Soccer in the Streets to bring the sport back to those areas through that group.
Okay, and then our Parks and Rec team are part of that conversation as well.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we appreciate your annual report and look forward to seeing you next year. All right, thank you. All right, everyone, that takes us back to our regular agenda. We've already sounded items for first read and communications. Sorry, we are now up to items for first read after we've done communications, correct?
Item number 3 is 24-0-1189, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2024 budget by transferring appropriations from the Department of City Planning 2024 General Fund budget and adding appropriations to the Department of City Planning Capital Finance Fund in an amount not to exceed a total of $545,000.00 for departmental planning initiatives which span multiple fiscal years and for other purposes. Item number 4, 24-0-1202, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation to accept reimbursement grant award from Bright from the Start, Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning for the 2024 Summer Food Service Program in an amount not to exceed $790,680.00 in accordance with Section 2-910 of the Atlanta Code and authorizing the amendment to the fiscal year 2024 intergovernmental grant budget to anticipate and appropriate funds received from the reimbursement grant and authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to enter into any necessary agreements in conjunction with the Summer Food Service Program and for other purposes. Item number 5, 24-0-1203, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer or his designee to add funding to the service agreement with the Atlanta Beltline, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $750,000.00. All work will be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. And then we're on to the regular agenda, ordinances for second reading. Item number 6, 24-0-1172. Committee members, there's a substitute in your packet.
Second. Is that a motion to bring forth the substitute by Councilmember Westmoreland and a second by Councilmember Bakhtiari?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. It's 5 yeas, 0 nays. And the substitute caption, it's an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone, as substituted by Community Development and Human Services Committee, an ordinance to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2024 General Fund budget in the amount of $2 million.00 to anticipate and appropriate funds for the 2024 Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program and for other purposes.
Thank you. Commissioner Flanagan.
Yes, thank you, council members. This is the request for our 2024 iteration of the Summer Youth Employment Program. As you recall, the Summer Youth Employment Program served a little over 5,000 individuals between city-funded programs and our Everybody Counts initiatives, to where we had in-kind or in-excess participation from the private business community. The program will be very similar to what it was last year. Period of employment for 6 weeks, up to 20 hours a week. Our average wage last year was $17.27 an hour. We anticipate that or in excess of that again for the coming year. So that is our request, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Got a motion to approve by Councilmember Boone. I'll second. Mr. Evans, if you'll please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7, 24-0-1174, an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Grants and Community Development to retroactively apply for and accept funds and amend the FY 2024 intergovernmental grant fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations awarded funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Healthy Homes Production Grant Program in an amount not to exceed $1,753,802.00 for the purposes of performing healthy homes assessments in 120 housing units with the collaboration of medical and social service providers, hiring staff to manage the program and oversee the grant award, and entering into any necessary agreements with the project partners for the implementation of grant acceptance and participation to fund 7 positions and for other purposes. There's an amendment in your packet that will insert account string information into Section 2.
Got a motion to amend by Councilmember Bakhtiari. I'll second. If you could please open the vote.
Vote is open. And the vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays for that.
Any questions or comments? We have a motion to motion to approve as amended by Councilmember Westmoreland. I'll second. If you'll please open the vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. Takes us to number 8, 24-0-1176, an ordinance by Council Member. Oh, excuse me, there is a substitute in your packet for this one. This is, and it adds clarifications to some of the language at the recommendation of the Law Department.
Motion to bring forth the substitute. It's been properly seconded. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. It's 5 yeas and 0 nays. I'll read that caption for you. Okay. An ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland is substituted by the Community Development and Human Services Committee. An ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of City Planning to exercise the renewal option for special procurement agreement listed here, short-term rental software with Granicus LLC for a term of 1 year, and to amend the scope of the services to remove the subscription for an enhanced short-term rental registration portal in an amount not to exceed $185,324.98. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from the account listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion to approve on substitute. Do we have a second? Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. Takes us to number 9, 24-0-1177, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason H. Winston authorizing the Chief Financial Officer or his designee to provide additional funding from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to the City of Atlanta Fulton County Land Bank Authority, DBA Metro Atlanta Land Bank, in a total amount not to exceed $809,144.00 for the public purpose of preparing foreclosed properties for redevelopment and with a focus on creating and preserving affordable housing. To authorize the Chief Financial Officer or his designee to make all payments from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, council members. So this is an ordinance for us to continue essentially with our public land redevelopment program. So the land bank, and I have here Elizabeth Roberts, who is the general counsel for the Metro Atlanta Land Bank in the room as well, in case you have any technical questions. The land bank is the city's partner, as allowed under state law, to redevelop land that has passed through and clear title for land that has passed through some kind of sheriff's deed program or another pilot that we have done with them, which is taking properties that were cleared under our admin in REM program and returning them to developable use. Now, the reason why we are allocating additional funding is because these properties often have very complex title issues that require multiple rounds and hearings to clear, and so it's an investment in bringing them back to productive use.
We know you, but can you state your name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Chanel Zeisel. I'm the Director of Housing Policy for the Office of the Mayor.
And that's 40 under 40 GSU alumni.
Yes, I
Chanel
am.
Zeisel.
Shout out.
But did you write a recommendation?
We have motion to approve by Councilmember Westmoreland. Sounds like a second.
Second.
Bakhtiari, can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 10, 24-01178, an ordinance by Council Member Jason H. Winston authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Labor and Employment Services to retroactively apply for and accept grant funds from the United States Conference of Mayors as part of the Talent for Tomorrow Digital Equity Challenge, authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into agreements to accept the grant with the United States Conference of Mayors and for other purposes.
Make a motion to approve. That's a second. Any questions or comments? Got a motion to approve. It's been properly seconded. If you can please open the vote.
It's a motion or seconder? Okay.
Second by Winston.
Thank you. The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. On to resolutions. Item number 11 has a substitute in the packet. It's 24R3432. The substitute in current inserts account information. The vote is open. The vote is closed. It's 5 yeas and 0 nays. And the caption reads, a resolution by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland is substituted by the Community Development Human Services Committee. A resolution authorizing the City of Atlanta to donate a total amount not to exceed $5,000.00 to the Rainbow Book Bus pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter to promote and protect access to representative books and other materials for queer communities, authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into any necessary agreements to effectuate the donation, and authorize the chief financial officer or his designee to make all payments from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
So we got a motion to approve as substituted by Councilmember Bakhtiari, second by Councilmember Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. Takes us to item 12, 24R3433, a resolution by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation to Neighbor in Need to support emergency home repairs for legacy residents in order to help prevent displacement pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter and for other purposes.
A motion to approve by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. Item 13, 24R3434, a resolution by Council Member Jason H. Winston authorizing the City of Atlanta to donate a total amount not to exceed $600,000.00 to Urban League of Greater Atlanta pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter to support stabilizing low-income Atlanta households to support placement into safe, affordable, and secure housing units. Authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into any necessary agreements to effectuate the donation, to authorize the chief financial officer or his designee to make the donation authorized hereby from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Should I state my name again?
Yes.
I'm Chanel Zeisel. I'm the Director of Housing Policy for the Mayor's Office. So this piece of legislation is a continuation of the work that we are doing through the Housing Help Center, which you also have been so supportive of. So again, the work of the Housing Help Center is really to reach out to low-income Atlantans that are in precarious situations, subject to displacement, and connect them to a resource network of social services and financial assistance. A lot of the work that we have done in our first, well, maybe what, I think we're like 5 months into our operation of the Housing Help Center now, we launched in late October of last year, has been really vetting and identifying where there is support and where there isn't. And one of the areas that we determined was a critical need was for emergency fund assistance. You can go and get rental assistance in some instances, but sometimes rental assistance is a downstream effect of the fact that your car stopped working, which prevented you from getting to work, and all of that could have been avoided if you had $650 in cash. So this is to provide this funding to the Urban League of Greater Atlanta, which is a reputable nonprofit provider that works with us on many other projects, and for them to do a set aside for residents who are referred to them to the Housing Help Center with legitimate needs that will prevent displacement.
Thank you. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Wanted to thank you and really give a shout out to Director Donald Woodson for how responsive he's been to our constituents in District 5. So I'm very grateful. You all have managed to help quite a few of our constituents that have been facing eviction or in need of assistance. And I want to first motion to approve, but I also wanted to ask if there could be some sort of updates. We could see the numbers of who has been helped by district, et cetera. If we could have some sort of understanding of how effective it's been. But very excited for the project to continue.
Absolutely. I would be more than happy to ask Director Woodson to make a presentation to this committee if you like that.
Well, I'll leave that up to the chair.
Yes, we would like that.
So thank you. Yes, but move to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Councilman Bakhtiari. If there are more questions or comments, I'll second that.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 14, 24R3438, a resolution by Council Member Liliana Bakhtiari authorizing a donation to Hope Atlanta to support efforts to avoid displacement, homelessness, and hunger pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter and for other purposes. Members, you'll find an amendment in your packet that will correct the name of the organization in the 4th resolved clause.
I'll second.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. It's 4 yeas and 0 nays.
A motion to approve by Councilmember Bakhtiari. I'll second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. It's 4 yeas and 0 nays. That brings us to 15. And that's 24R3441, a resolution by Council Member Byron D. Amos to establish a neighborhood sports council and for other purposes. The author has asked for this paper to be held.
I'll make a motion to hold. You have a second? Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. Item 16, 24R 3527, a resolution by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute agreement listed here, chartered bus transportation services with the National Limousine Service, Inc., and the agreement listed here, chartered bus transportation services with MTI Limo and shuttle services on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation for a term of 2 years with term of 2 years with 2 1-year renewal options and an aggregate amount not to exceed $400,000.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the accounts number listed herein and for other purposes.
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Boone. I'll second. Do you have any questions or comments? Seeing none. Mr. Evans, will you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 17, 24R 3528, a resolution by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into agreements with each with a term of 1 year with 4 1-year renewal options with 14 vendors under the agreement listed here for Centers for Hope After School Programming Services with First Evolution Arts, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $100,000.00. 3D Girls, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $50,000.00. Abacus Mind Math Tutors, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $80,000.00. Blueprint Camp, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $100,000.00. C.E. Mitchell Tutoring Services, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $100,000.00. Don't Snooze Academy, in an amount not to exceed $50,000.00. The Generation in Focus, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $100,000.00. Johnson Unlimited Management and Production Company, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $100,000.00. Second Nature for Children, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $20,000.00. STEM Education Experience, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $100,000.00. The Village Tutorial, in an amount not to exceed $50,000.00. Thriving Minds After School Academy, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $100,000.00. Vision Tutoring Educational Foundation, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $100,000.00. And Young Engineers of Atlanta, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $100,000.00 to provide youth teen out-of-school programming on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Members, there's an amendment in your packet. It includes the NIPRO report, which will be attached.
I'll make a motion to amend. Second. I have a second. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays.
Deputy Commissioner Voss, you want to unpack a little bit of that?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of council, and thank you, Jared, for reading maybe what is the longest caption from DPR's history. But this is a very important program for us. This is the second phase of everything from after-school tutors to STEM providers to dance to art that we provide to all of our after-school programs. We did a earlier bid that was started this school year with 10. It was extremely productive for our students. We have 17 sites. We were able to get these vendors to all of them. This will allow us to provide next school year a total of about 24 different vendors that can move out to all of our different sites, providing a range of different programs regardless of which of our sites you attend. So happy to answer any questions, but we're very excited about moving this forward next year.
I have a motion to approve as amended by Councilmember Westmoreland. I'll second. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. One moment. Okay. I think that takes us to number 18. That is 24R 3529, a resolution by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise renewal option number 2 for the agreement listed here, Summer Food Services Program with Meals Pro Inc. on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation for a term of 1 year effective July 15, 2024 through July 14, 2025 in an amount not to exceed $1,581,360.00 to be charged to and paid from the funding accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Commissioner Voss.
Again, Doug Voss, Department of Parks. This is our summer meal program renewal. Each year we have 2,000 children that participate in Camp Best Friends, but we also provide services for meals outside of our Camp Best Friend programs at mobile sites. I'm very excited to announce this year we'll actually be offering meals at our pools. So I think that's something unique and different. I think we have a total of about 30 plus different sites we'll be visiting. We have a bus that's decorated and acknowledges the program, and we are reimbursed for all the meals during the summer. So we're looking forward to starting that program again.
Got a motion to approve by Councilmember Boone. I'll second. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. And on to 19, 24R 3540, a resolution by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the city and the Georgia State Golf Association, allowing the GSGA to offer a golf program at certain city-owned golf courses at reduced rates for GSGA's golf program participants, as approved by the Commissioner of the Department of Parks and Recreation for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options to be exercised upon the mutual consent of the parties and consent of the City Council of Atlanta and for other purposes.
Deputy Commissioner Voss.
This is our last one. This is a unique program working with the Georgia State Golf Association. They actually provide a reimbursement grant so that you can play any of our 4 courses for $5. You can play a round of golf for $5 if you're between 7 and 18 years of age. The state actually reimburses us the difference. Our fees are generally between $13.50 and $15.50, so it's a significant reimbursement. We're trying to encourage youth golf at any of our 4 sites. We've used this program as a pilot, and it was successful, so we'd like to renew it for another number of years.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Westmoreland. I'll second. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. There are no dual referred items that have made it to the committee today. There is one held item for the committee. That'll be item number 43. And that is 24O1075 CDP 24005, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1576 Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway from the low-density commercial land use designation to the mixed-use medium-density land use designation and for other purposes. This, this item was on the March 6th, 2024 CDP public hearing agenda, and the companion zoning paper was passed out of the zoning committee yesterday.
A motion to approve by Councilmember Westmoreland. It's been seconded by Councilmember Norwood. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. And there's one walk-in item. Items number 35210. It's a resolution by Community Development and Human Services Committee expressing the City of Atlanta's support for any lawful efforts which may be employed by those entities building housing in the Thomasville Heights community to prioritize providing affordable housing opportunities to the former residents of the Forest Cove apartment complex and for other purposes.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Norwood. And I'll second that. But colleagues, I spoke to this earlier. You know, a lot of the city's goal, my goal, and the mayor's goal has been to make sure that any affordable housing projects are prioritized for former Forest Cove residents so that they can return back to the Thomasville Heights community. That continues to be a goal of ours. And what this legislation does is call out for the city to do everything that's within its lawful power to be able to do that. And so with that, I appreciate your support.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. That's 5 yeas and 0 nays. And that concludes the legislative agenda.
Thank you all for a good meeting. Any other parting questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you.